So the Chiefs had a lot of injuries that occurred during Tuesday's practice, which is never a good thing, especially at the wide receiver position. Not that you ever want it to happen with any position group, but the Chiefs went through hell and back with that wide receiver position group last year with injuries and everything. And in training camp on Tuesday, there were several injuries, especially at the wide receiver position. Xavier Worthy suffered a head injury. Hollywood Brown suffered an ankle injury. Sky Moore had a hamstring deal. Hollywood Brown and Sky Moore both left practice early. They were able to walk off on their own. They just got in the backseat of the cart, and they ended practice early for those two players. Keep one thing in mind about Tuesday's practice. That was probably the hottest day of practice that they had. When practice was over, it was 95 degrees, and the heat index was at 120. It was also the longest practice the Chiefs have had for training camp so far this year. Now, I'm not personally timing these practices, but I know the media does as well, and a lot of the media put out there on social media that this was the longest practice that they had in training camp so far this year. So when you put those two things together, the longest practice of training camp so far and the heat, it's not really the greatest mixture there, and that may have had an impact in some of these injuries with Hollywood Brown, Sky Moore, and Xavier Worthy. Now, a little bit of good news here on the Hollywood Brown front, at least. Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports tweeted that this is not anything significant. On Tuesday, Jordan Schultz did say that they expect Hollywood Brown to come back as early as today, Wednesday. Now, Hollywood Brown did not practice today, nor did Sky Moore and Xavier Worthy, and I'll get into Xavier Worthy soon because that's the bigger concern here. I did say on social media Tuesday, it would not be the worst idea in the world if the Chiefs decided to keep these guys on the sideline, because my prediction was that today was going to be a shorter practice, which it was. But on top of that, they're off on Thursday. So would it be a bad idea to give these guys a couple of days off, not have them go through any reps, no practice, none of that stuff, just be with the trainer, do what you need to do with those guys in the training room and the training staff. At the end of the day, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world to have kept those guys on the sidelines for today's practice. Now, the one that did raise some concerns today was the update for Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs, yesterday, Andy Reid specifically just stated it was a head injury. Today, the Chiefs shared that Xavier Worthy is in the concussion protocol. That obviously is not good news. Now, one thing to keep in mind is today is July the 30th. We haven't even started the NFL preseason yet. The first NFL preseason game begins tomorrow. Kansas City's first preseason game is about a week and a half away. So there's still a little bit of time. It's never ideal to miss practice or to miss preseason games. I know people don't want to see Patrick Mahomes or any of these key players in preseason games, but they do need these repetitions, whether we like to see that or not. But for Xavier Worthy, especially with the growth he showed during the second half of last season, his rookie campaign, it's certainly something to keep an eye on. And not to mention, we're anticipating that the league is going to announce a suspension at some point fairly soon, we would expect, but you never know with the NFL. They can be a little weird with the time of when they announce these things. I still remember in 22, Willie Gay and Frank Clark, they were both suspended during the 2022 season, and Andy Reid certainly was not pleased about it, if you guys recall, in one of his press conferences, but neither here nor there. The point is, obviously, Rashee Rice is not going to be available for some time. We just don't know specifically when and for how many games. Hollywood Brown obviously missed a majority of last season with that shoulder injury, and this is a guy that Kansas City brought back for a reason. Yeah, sure, there's a little bit of an injury risk there. He's dealt with some injuries in the past, but they feel like he's worth the risk, and that's why they brought him back on another one-year deal, and they feel like there's some serious potential in this offense with Hollywood Brown. The Xavier Worthy update, I mean, that's one that has a lot of people concerned. And to be very clear on this, he's in the concussion protocol. He doesn't have a concussion, at least not as of this moment here. And I know there's some confusion because Worthy did leave the tent. He put his helmet on. He did some drills after being evaluated. It's entirely possible he showed different symptoms concussion symptoms this morning as opposed to yesterday, that's something to be aware of. Maybe he showed symptoms at another time as well yesterday after practice. I don't know. But that's something to be aware of here. Because when you look at the hit that occurred for Worthy, Mahomes throwing a deep pass to him, Najee Johnson trying to break that up, obviously unintentional. It looks like his right knee connected with the head area. And keep in mind, Worthy does have the Guardian cap on. Now, the Guardian cap does not guarantee that you won't get a concussion. The idea is that it'll reduce the number of concussions throughout the league. Unfortunately, in this situation, to be clear, he doesn't have a concussion, at least not that we know of yet, but he's in the concussion protocol right now. So we have to see how that all plays out. But obviously, unintentional. And listen, it's football. It's a physical sport. These things happen. So it's never anything you want to see. It just happens in this sport. For now, we don't know the severity of this. We don't know how much time he's going to miss. But let me remind you, it is July the 30th right now. The preseason has yet to begin. The regular season kicks off in a little over a month. So, and to be clear, there's never a good time for an injury, whether it's in training camp because you need these repetitions, whether it's early in the regular season, late in the regular season. There's never a good time for an injury. But at least, if you want to find some silver lining in this, at least it's happening on July the 30th. And hopefully he can go through the process, pass all the concussion protocol tests, and be able to play on September the 5th when the Chiefs go to Brazil and play the Chargers to open up their season. Like I said, it's obviously a physically demanding sport, and the Chiefs went through this last year. They didn't make any excuses about it. It was always next man up. And when you look at Kansas City's depth chart right now, there are a couple of guys who've shined in training camp. And I've talked about this already, and it's worth going over a little bit here, given that we are talking about the wide receiver position right now, because Jalen Royals, who the Chiefs drafted in the 4th round out of Utah State, this is a guy who has gotten involved quite a lot with Patrick Mahomes in practice. And again, I recognize it's practice. We can't really put too much stock into these, but that's all we have to go off right now. And he's checking off all the boxes. He's doing what needs to be done. He's doing what's asked of him right now in practice. And Jalen Royals is someone who's gotten involved quite a bit in practice with Patrick Mahomes. That's certainly been an encouraging sign. And the good news is, with Worthy kind of going through his thing with the concussion protocol, if that's anything serious where he's going to be sidelined for some time, well, it's a good thing that they've been able to get Jalen Royals involved, because he's going to know what's expected of him. And maybe this is going to lead to a situation where Jalen Royals might play a lot with the ones in the first preseason game next week when the Chiefs visit the Cardinals. So that would be something to keep an eye on in next week's preseason game. Hopefully Worthy's injury is not serious. I mean, hopefully he comes back. That would be the most preferred outcome. But we have to wait and see how that goes. The other wide receiver who's certainly gotten a lot of attention in training camp is Tyquan Thornton, who the Patriots released late last year. The Chiefs added him to the practice squad, thinking that there would be a chance that he could do something for the team in the future, and that time is now. Tyquan Thornton, he's gotten involved a lot with the ones as well in practice. He's also had some flashy plays, the tiptoe, diving catch, and just a lot of involvement with the Chiefs offense. Keep in mind, in that 2022 draft class, he had the fastest 40 time of any offensive player. Obviously, the fastest 40 time of anyone in his position, though the wide receiver position. And now he's in Kansas City. We know Kansas City, especially under Andy Reid's offensive scheme, they love to bring in guys that have that type of speed. They've tried it with other guys in the past, we know, like Kadarius Toney, hasn't always worked out, but Andy Reid always wants to explore that option and see if that player can bring anything to the table for the offense. And I think this is a guy that's certainly worth bringing in, and we're kind of seeing it right now in practice. And I think this is someone who could get involved more in these preseason games with the starters, depending how long some of these players could be out for. Guys like Sky Moore, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy. Again, I know Hollywood is not expected to miss too much time, according to Jordan Schultz, his report. But those two guys, Royals and Thornton, they've gotten a lot of reps with Patrick Mahomes so far in practice. So the good news with all of this is the Chiefs do have some guys that know what's expected of them and know what to do. We just need to see it in a preseason game. And if they do well, and make the 53-man roster. Hopefully they can carry that into the regular season. The expectation is that they'll be depth guys, but again, I think part of the reason why the Chiefs are loading up on these wide receivers, bringing back Hollywood Brown and keeping a guy like Tyquan Thornton from last year's practice squad and drafting Jalen Royals is in case if there's an injury bug that goes around at that wide receiver room again, well, the thought is they've got some guys on the depth. Keep in mind, Juju Smith-Schuster came back as well. And he got cut by the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, right before the deadline for the roster cuts during the preseason. But the Chiefs saw a lot of value in him and felt the need to bring him back after he had a good run with the team in 2022, having a hand in their Super Bowl run that year, winning Super Bowl 57. So I just think at the end of the day, you obviously hope for the best with Xavier Worthy because they absolutely need him. That goes without saying. But this also gives an opportunity for guys like Jalen Royals and Tyquan Thornton to be able to maybe get more involved in these upcoming preseason games. We'll have to see. Hopefully, the Chiefs can provide a positive update on Friday when they return to practice, as they're going to be off tomorrow. But that is something to be aware of. No need to hit the panic button right now. It's just something to keep an eye on and just hope for the best with Xavier Worthy.